Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Ever feel like, like the whole system is rigged, like someone's pulling strings you can't even see?
Yeah.
That's kind of the feeling you get diving into Convergence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thriller ripped straight from the headlines,
Yeah.
but with this,
Yeah.
like a dose of conspiracy that makes you question everything.
Yeah.
So don't forget to like and subscribe
Right.
so you don't miss future deep dives like this one.
Yeah.
We're cracking open Convergence by Iris Bowling. And link to buy is on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
The link's in the description.
Yep.
And trust me, this book, it explores the dark side of power
Oh,
in
yeah.
a way that'll stay with you.
What struck me right away was how the book uses this fictional organization,
Okay.
P.I.E, could really examine like real-world anxieties, about control and
Yeah.
exploitation and who really holds the reins in our society.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The story kicks off with the murder of William DeFazio,
Okay.
a seemingly successful businessman,
Right.
but his death,
Yeah.
it's not just your average crime scene.
Right.
It's got Detective Nate Raines immediately suspicious.
Yeah, and it all circles back to this mysterious death serum. We saw in a previous case
Right.
that Nate worked on, the Alex Burnett murder.
Uh-huh.
The serum's practically untraceable,
Yeah.
making it the perfect weapon for a group operating from the shadows.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. A poison that mimics natural causes.
Right.
That's terrifyingly sophisticated.
And the plot thickens because DeFazio's wife
Yeah.
is also found dead,
Right.
killed in the exact same way.
Uh-huh.
But here's the twist. Investigators find traces of an incredibly rare
Okay.
and exclusive perfume
Wow.
at the crime scene,
Okay.
a scent DeFazio wouldn't have had access to.
Interesting.
It points to a woman with wealth and influence.
Mm-hmm.
So it raises the question,
Yeah.
who is she? And how does she fit into all of this?
That's such a great point, and it's a brilliant way to bring in this air of mystery, right?
Yeah.
And hint at this much larger conspiracy that's at play.
Right.
It's like the author's dropping breadcrumbs,
Yeah.
leading us deeper and deeper into this web of intrigue.
Okay, and those breadcrumbs lead us straight to P.I.E. Peaceful Intervention Emergence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as investigators dig deeper,
Yeah.
they uncover this shadowy organization
Right.
that's not just about wealth.
Okay.
It's about manipulating society to fit their own twisted vision.
Their methods are chillingly effective, though. Think about it. They're using corrupt judges
Right?
to unjustly imprison people of color.
Wow.
Essentially creating this modern-day system of forced labor.
It's like,
They're exploiting student loan debt
right.
to trap brilliant minds into working for them.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, they have this death serum to eliminate
Yeah.
anyone who poses a threat.
So DeFazio,
Yeah.
with his
Right.
less than clean past,
Right.
was initially thought to be a PI ally.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they took him out suggests he was either playing both sides
Right.
or trying to break free.
Yeah.
So this internal conflict within PIE adds a whole other layer of complexity to the story.
It's interesting, because it challenges our assumptions about power.
Yeah,
We tend to think of powerful organizations as monolithic,
right,
but Convergence shows us that even within those structures,
right.
there are cracks, rivalries, individuals who might be seeking a way out.
Exactly. And speaking of individuals,
Yeah.
we're introduced to Corey Vaughn,
Okay.
the son of a PIE leader
Mm-hmm.
who was killed by Nate.
Right.
He's fueled by a desire for revenge.
Yeah.
But he's also got his sights set on becoming the mayor of Richmond.
What's fascinating about Corey is he represents this clash
Okay.
between old and new within PIE.
Yeah.
He's driven by this deeply ingrained belief in white supremacy,
Okay.
obsessed with reclaiming land historically tied to his family and their, racist past.
Yeah.
But he's also ruthless and ambitious, willing to go against
Yeah.
even the PIE higher-ups to achieve his own goals.
He's like a toxic cocktail
Yeah.
of ambition and hate. And he uses manipulation
Right.
and intimidation to control everyone around him,
Right.
including Crystal,
Yeah.
his fiercely loyal and incredibly dangerous protector.
Crystal's an intriguing character, though. On the surface, she's this cold, calculating enforcer.
Right.
But as the story progresses, you see these glimpses of a more complex individual.
Right.
Someone whose loyalty might be more conditional
Right.
than it initially appears. It makes you wonder what her breaking point might be.
Amidst all this, we have this small group of individuals, including Nate and his family,
Mm-hmm.
banding together to fight back against PIE.
Right.
They're connected by a shared sense of justice
Yeah.
and this desperate need to protect those they love. What struck me here
Mm-hmm.
was how ordinary people
Right.
can find themselves thrust into extraordinary circumstances.
Absolutely. And what makes their fight even more compelling is they're facing this seemingly unbeatable enemy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, P.I.E.'s influence runs deep.
Right.
They've got judges, law enforcement officials,
Wow.
even politicians on their payroll.
Yeah.
It's a web of corruption that seems
Right.
almost impossible to untangle.
It's like a David versus Goliath situation
Yeah.
where the stakes are incredibly high,
Right.
and anyone who dares to challenge P.I.E.
Mm-hmm.
puts themselves and their loved ones in incredible danger.
That's what makes this thriller so gripping, right? It taps into this primal fear
Right.
of being trapped in a system that's rigged against you,
Yeah.
where even the people you're supposed to trust
Yeah.
could be working for the enemy.
Yeah.
It makes you question who you can truly rely on
Right.
and what lengths you'd go to protect those you care about.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
And speaking of things that make you think,
Yeah,
the book doesn't shy away from exploring
right.
the ethical dilemmas surrounding technology.
Mm-hmm.
We're introduced to these hologram police officers,
Mhm.
which at first seem like an innovative solution to crime, but
But the implications are unsettling, right? Like,
Right.
who controls these holograms?
Right.
What biases are programmed into them?
yeah,
And what happens when they make a mistake? You're essentially handing over
right,
law enforcement to machines,
right.
which raises a whole host of questions
Yeah.
about accountability and transparency.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, right? We're already seeing the potential for misuse with things like
Mm,
facial recognition technology and predictive policing algorithms.
right.
Convergence just takes it a step further
Yeah.
and asks us to confront the potential consequences of giving too much power to technology.
And it's not just the holograms.
Yeah.
The book also explores deepfakes
Oh, wow.
and other forms of digital manipulation,
Right,
which makes you question the very nature of truth
right.
in a world where technology can be used to fabricate reality. It's like the author is holding up a mirror
Yeah.
to our own society, right?
Yeah.
And asking us to consider how vulnerable we are
Yeah.
to these forms of manipulation.
That's such a crucial point, because we are bombarded with information
Right.
from so many sources these days.
Yeah.
And it's becoming increasingly difficult to discern fact from fiction.
Absolutely.
So convergence forces us to be more critical thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
to question the narratives we're being fed,
Right.
and to be more aware of how technology can be used to distort our perceptions.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we can't just passively consume information. We
Right.
have to engage with it, actively question our assumptions, and be willing to challenge the status quo.
And in the midst of all this technological darkness,
Uh-huh.
we're also introduced to Nate's mother, Charlotte. And let's just say she's not your average mom.
What I find so intriguing about Charlotte
Yeah.
is her connection to this mysterious organization known as TA.
Okay.
We get hints they operate outside the traditional power structures,
Yeah.
possibly even a shadow government agency.
Wow.
It adds this whole other layer of intrigue because we're never quite sure
Right.
what their motivations are
Yeah.
or how far their influence extends.
Yeah, it's like Charlotte is playing a game on a whole different level
Right.
with moves we can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
And speaking of unexpected connections,
Yeah.
we meet Grant Hutchinson,
Okay.
who's managing L.T. Palmer's campaign for mayor.
Right.
His family has deep roots in Richmond,
Uh-huh.
and it turns out
they own a vast amount of land that the Vaughns
Yeah.
Corey's family have been trying to reclaim for generations.
Wow.
So this land dispute becomes central to the story,
Right.
highlighting the enduring legacy of racism
Yeah.
and the historical injustices that continue to shape the present.
Yeah, it's not just about land ownership.
Right.
It's about power and control and who gets to write the narrative.
Absolutely.
This conflict between the Hutchinsons and the Vaughns adds this whole other dimension to the fight against P.I.E.,
Yeah.
connecting the personal to the political.
It's a reminder that these battles for justice are
Yeah.
often fought on multiple fronts,
Yeah,
and that seemingly small acts of resistance can have this ripple effect
Yeah.
that extends far beyond our immediate circles. The land dispute becomes a symbol of the larger struggle for equality and justice,
yeah,
which resonates deeply with the themes of the book. One of the things that really struck me about this whole land dispute is how it exposes the deep-seated racism
Yeah.
that's like woven into the fabric of our society. It's not just about a piece of property.
right.
It's about the legacy of slavery, segregation,
Yeah.
and the ongoing struggle for Black people to, like,
Right.
own and control their own destiny.
Yeah, it's like this wound that keeps getting reopened
Right.
generation after generation.
Right.
And Corey's obsession with reclaiming this land,
Yeah.
with purifying the white race, it's terrifying.
It is.
Because it feels so real,
Yeah.
so relevant to the conversations we're having today.
It is, and that's what makes Convergence so unsettling.
Right.
You know, it doesn't shy away from these difficult topics.
Right.
It forces us to confront the ways in which racism continues to permeate our institutions, our laws,
Right.
even our personal relationships.
And speaking of institutions,
Yeah.
the book really digs into this whole student loan scam.
Right.
The way P.I.E. is buying up student debt.
Yeah.
And then using it to force people into servitude.
Right.
It's just sickening.
It's a brilliant, albeit disturbing
Right.
way to illustrate how economic inequality can be weaponized.
Yeah.
You have these brilliant minds,
Right.
burdened by debt,
Right.
essentially forced to sell their souls to the company store.
Right.
It's a modern-day form of indentured servitude,
Yeah.
and it preys on people's hopes for a better future.
Yeah, it's like they're being punished for trying to get an education.
Exactly.
We're daring to dream of something more.
And we see this play out through Thomasina Wiggins,
Okay.
this brilliant accountant who gets caught in this web of deceit.
Right.
She's forced to work for P.I.,
Yeah.
becoming their financial puppet master.
Right.
But even in captivity, she finds ways to resist
Okay.
using her knowledge to expose their corrupt dealings.
Her story gave me chills.
Yeah.
It's like even when they have you trapped,
Right.
there's always a way to fight back.
Absolutely. Thomasina represents the resilience of the human spirit.
Right.
She reminds us that even when the odds are stacked against us,
Yeah.
we can still find ways to reclaim our power.
And speaking of power,
Yeah.
the book doesn't just focus on like the big
Right.
systemic forces at play.
Right.
It also explores the complexities of power
Right.
within relationships.
Yeah.
We see this through Corey and Crystal,
Mm-hmm.
but also through Nate and his mother,
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte.
The dynamics between those two are fascinating. On the surface, you have this tough, non-nonsense detective and his enigmatic mother.
Right.
But as the layers are peeled back,
Yeah.
we see this deep, albeit complicated love
Yeah.
and this shared history that shaped them both.
Their relationship is a reminder that even the people closest to us can have secrets,
Yeah.
and that sometimes those secrets can come back to haunt us.
It's also a testament to the Power family, though,
Yeah.
despite their differences.
Yeah.
Nate and Charlotte are there for each other when it matters most.
Right.
Their bond is a source of strength in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
The book really makes you question how well you know the people in your life, doesn't it?
It does.
And it challenges us to look beyond the surface,
Right.
to recognize that everyone is carrying their own burdens,
Yeah.
their own hidden truths.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of hidden truths, let's talk about the SIBs,
Okay.
those genetically enhanced individuals created as part of this top-secret government program.
Oh, yes, the SIBs.
Yeah.
They add a whole other dimension to the story,
Right.
blurring the lines between science fiction and reality.
Right.
Their existence raises all sorts of ethical questions
Yeah.
about genetic engineering, the nature of humanity,
Right.
and the potential for exploitation.
So for our listeners who haven't read the book,
Yeah.
could you break down who the SIBs are and
Yeah.
why they're so significant to this story?
Of course. So the term SIB stands for strategically improved beings.
Okay.
Essentially, individuals who have been genetically engineered
Right.
to possess enhanced physical and mental abilities.
Wow.
They were created as part of this clandestine government program,
Mm-hmm.
but things went wrong. Oh, and now these SIBs are caught in the crossfire between P.I.E.
Right.
and those who oppose them.
It's like the author's asking us to consider the unintended consequences
Right.
of scientific progress.
Yeah.
Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
Exactly. The SIBs are a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing God
Right.
and the ethical dilemmas we face as technology continues to advance.
Their storylines really make you think about what it means to be human
Mm-hmm.
and the potential cost of pushing the boundaries of science
Right.
without considering the moral implications.
It's a theme that resonates throughout the book, from the death serum to the hologram police officers to the SIBs themselves.
Yeah.
Convergence forces us to confront the ethical challenges of a world
Right.
where technology is rapidly outpacing our ability to understand
Right.
its full impact.
And in a way, Corey Vaughn himself embodies this idea of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
albeit in a much more sinister way.
Right.
His relentless pursuit of power,
Mm-hmm.
his willingness to exploit and manipulate others.
Yeah.
It speaks to a kind of moral bankruptcy that feels all too familiar in today's world.
It's like he represents the dark side of ambition,
Right.
the dangers of unchecked ego and greed.
Yeah.
He's a reminder that power corrupts,
Right.
and that even those with seemingly noble intentions
Yeah.
can be seduced by the allure of control.
His downfall's almost Shakespearean in its tragedy.
Right.
A man consumed by his own demons,
Yeah.
ultimately brought down by the very forces he sought to control.
It's a powerful reminder that actions have consequences.
Right.
And that even the most cunning manipulations can backfire.
Yeah.
When you underestimate the resilience of the human spirit
Right.
and the power of truth.
Speaking of truth,
Yeah.
the book doesn't shy away from depicting the devastating impact
Right.
of P.I.E.'s actions.
Mm-hmm.
We see families torn apart, lives lost,
Yeah.
and a city struggling to come to terms with the depths of corruption
Right.
that have permeated its institutions.
It's a sobering reminder that these conspiracies, these abuses of power,
Yeah.
they don't just exist in the realm of fiction.
Right.
They have real-world consequences,
Right.
impacting the lives of everyday people in profound ways.
It makes you question how much of what we see in the news and politics in our own communities
Right.
might be influenced by forces we're not even aware of.
It is, and it challenges us to be more discerning, to question the narratives we're being fed,
Yeah.
and to demand transparency and accountability from those impositions of authority.
But amidst all this darkness, there's also a glimmer of hope.
Right.
We see characters like L.T. Palmer,
Yeah.
the mayor of Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
who represents a new generation of leaders committed to justice and equality.
Mm-hmm.
His election is a sign that change is possible,
Yeah.
that the tide might be turning.
It's a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds,
Right.
there are people fighting the good fight,
Yeah.
working to create a better world.
Yeah. It's like this small spark of light in a
Right.
sea of darkness,
Mm-hmm.
reminding us that even when things seem bleak,
Mm.
there's always reason to hope.
And hope is a powerful motivator.
Right.
It inspired us to take action,
Yeah.
to stand up for what's right, to fight for the kind of world we want to live in.
Speaking of taking action,
Yeah.
the book doesn't offer any easy solutions,
Right.
but it does leave us with a sense that we're not powerless.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose to be informed,
Yeah.
to be engaged, to
Right.
hold those in power accountable.
Absolutely. Convergence is a call to action.
Right.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future,
Yeah.
and that even seemingly small act of resistance
Right.
can contribute to a larger movement for change.
It's like the author is saying, don't just sit there and be a spectator.
Right.
Get involved.
Yeah.
Make your voice heard.
Exactly. Complacency is the enemy of progress.
Mhm.
We have to be willing to question,
Right.
to challenge, to demand better.
And we have to be willing to support those
Absolutely.
who are already on the front lines,
Mm-hmm.
fighting for justice and equality.
Absolutely, whether it's through activism, through art,
Right.
through education, or through simply being informed and engaged citizens,
Right.
we all have a part to play in creating a more just and equitable world.
And speaking of playing a part,
Yeah,
the book doesn't end with a neat, tidy resolution.
right.
There are loose ends, unanswered questions,
Yeah.
and the lingering sense that P.I.E. might not be truly defeated.
That's one of the things I appreciate about Convergence.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer easy answers or
Right.
simplistic solutions.
Yeah.
It leaves us with a sense of unease,
Mhm.
a feeling that the fight for justice is ongoing,
Right.
and that vigilance is essential.
It's like the author is saying, don't get complacent.
Right.
The battle may be over,
Yeah.
but the war is far from won.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message,
Right.
especially in today's world.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be passive observers.
Right.
We have to be active participants in shaping the future we want to see.
Welcome back, everyone. Last time, things were really coming to a head, right? Like lawsuits were flying, Corey's campaign was imploding,
Right.
and P.I.E.'s carefully constructed facade was beginning to crumble.
Yeah, it's like all the threads of the story were converging, tightening the noose around P.I.E.'s neck.
Right.
But as we know, cornered animals can be dangerous, and
Right.
Corey Vaughn proves to be no exception.
Yeah, and he makes this desperate attempt to regain control,
Right.
trying to use Brett Dult,
Uh-huh.
the man Nate blames for a case gone wrong,
Right.
to derail the lawsuits against him.
Yeah.
It's classic Corey,
Yeah.
always trying to simulate the situation to his advantage.
You have to wonder, though, if Corey truly believed he could manipulate Dult.
Right.
Like, was it arrogance, desperation,
Yeah.
or a combination of both?
Yeah, perhaps a bit of both.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that Corey's downfall isn't due to some grand, heroic act.
Right.
It's his own manipulative tactics that
right.
backfire.
Yeah. He underestimates Dolt's desperation,
Right.
his willingness to do anything to save himself.
So Dolt,
Yeah.
facing his own legal troubles thanks to Elizabeth,
Mm-hmm.
sees a chance to cut a deal.
Right.
He turns on Corey,
Yeah.
revealing the entire scheme to the authorities.
It's a reminder that even the most carefully laid plans can unravel when you rely on deceit and manipulation. You can't control everyone all the time.
And that's when everything starts to collapse for P.I.E.
Right.
Like their financial dealings, their political connections, their use of the death serum.
Yeah.
It all comes crashing down like a house of cards.
It's such a satisfying moment for the reader.
Right.
Seeing this corrupt organization finally brought to justice, but it's also a testament to the courage of those who fought against them.
Right.
Individuals like Nate, Charlotte, and even Thomasina who risk everything to expose the truth.
Yeah, it shows that even seemingly small acts of defiance can have a significant impact. The takedown of P.I.E. isn't just a police operation either.
Right.
It's a full-blown government intervention,
Yeah.
which speaks to the scale of the threat they posed.
Right.
They weren't just criminals, they were a threat to democracy itself.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget the role of Charlotte
Right.
and her mysterious organization, TA.
Right. TA's involvement adds this whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah.
They're operating on a global scale,
Right.
working behind the scenes to maintain some kind of equilibrium.
Wow.
You know, it makes you wonder what else is going on that we're not aware of.
Right.
What other forces are at play and shaping the world around us.
It is a bit unsettling to think that there are these shadowy organizations
Right.
working outside the traditional power structures.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's also reassuring to know that someone is out there trying to keep things in check.
Yeah, it definitely blurs the lines between good and evil.
Right.
Are TA the good guys, or are they just another flavor of power brokers operating with their own agenda? The book leaves us with more questions than answers, which I find quite compelling.
Speaking of compelling, the final showdown between Nate and Corey is intense.
It's like years of pent-up anger, resentment, and clashing ideologies coming to a head. It's like a Greek tragedy.
Right.
These two figures locked in a battle that can only end in destruction.
And it's interesting because while Nate is driven by this desire for justice, Corey's motivations are more complex.
Right.
Yes, he wants revenge for his father's death.
Yeah.
But he's also consumed by this twisted ideology.
Right.
This belief in white supremacy that's been passed down through generations.
And just when it seems like Corey might actually win, Crystal, his fiercely loyal protector, injects him with the death serum.
It's a shocking twist.
It is.
That reveals her true allegiance is to the organization.
Right.
Not to any individual leader.
Right.
What did you make of that moment?
I think it speaks to the dangerous nature of fanaticism. Crystal's loyalty isn't to Corey, it's to the ideology he represents.
Yeah.
She's willing to sacrifice anyone, even someone she supposedly cares about,
Right.
to further the goals of P.I.E.
Wow.
It's a chilling reminder that blind devotion can lead to devastating consequences.
In the aftermath of the takedown, we see this devastating toll P.I.E.'s actions have taken.
Right.
Like lives have been lost, families shattered,
Yeah.
and the city of Richmond is left grappling with the scars of corruption and betrayal.
It's a sobering reminder that these kinds of conspiracies aren't just abstract concepts.
Right.
You know, they have real-world consequences, impacting the lives of everyday people in profound ways.
Right.
The book doesn't shy away from showing us the human cost of P.I.E.'s actions, which makes the story all the more powerful.
But amidst the wreckage,
Yeah.
there's also this glimmer of hope, right?
Right. The truth has been exposed, those responsible are being held accountable, and a new generation of leaders, like L.T. Palmer, are stepping up to rebuild and create a more just and equitable society.
L.T.'s election as mayor is a significant moment.
It is.
It's a sign that the city is rejecting the hateful ideology that P.I.E. represents and embracing a more inclusive future. It's a small step, but it offers a sense of optimism.
Right.
This belief that change is possible.
Yeah, Convergence leaves us with some lingering questions, though.
It does. Like, is P.I.E. truly defeated?
Right.
Or are there remnants of the organization still lurking in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike again?
Right. What happens to Elizabeth Rolsman? And what about T.A.?
Right.
What role will they play in the future?
Those are great questions.
They are.
And I think that's one of the things that makes Convergence such a powerful book. It doesn't tie everything up neatly in a bow. It leaves us with a sense of unease,
Right.
a feeling that the fight for justice is ongoing,
Yeah.
and that vigilance is essential.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It is.
And I think that's a testament to the author's skill. Iris Bulling has crafted this thriller.
Yeah.
That's not just entertaining, it's thought-provoking.
Right.
You know, it challenges us to examine our own beliefs about power, corruption, and the forces that shape our world.
I couldn't agree more. Convergence is a must-read for anyone who enjoys a good thriller.
Yeah.
But it's also a powerful commentary on the state of our society. It's a book that'll make you think, make you question, and hopefully make you want to be a more active participant in shaping the world around you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Convergence.
It does.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground, from murder and conspiracy to ethical dilemmas and the enduring legacy of racism. It's been a wild ride.
It has been, and I want to thank you for being such an engaged and insightful audience.
Yes, thank you.
Your comments and questions throughout this deep dive have added so much to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Before we sign off, be sure to let us know in the comments what your favorite moment in the book was or what really stood out to you.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of Convergence. You won't be disappointed.
Right. The link is in the description.
And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future deep dives.
Yes, please do.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Because the world needs more people like you who are willing to dive deep and explore the complexities of the human experience.